The people who truly love me, the ones who have loved me before the fame, the fortune, and all of your success, you can never leave those people behind. That is what Nick Cannon says when he's talking about how do you build extraordinary relationships. Today, as you focus on that, the first and most important thing to remember is the relationships that you build over time. Those are the ones that you have to value. It's not about who you are introduced to. As you become more successful, that allows you the opportunity to meet more amazing people, maybe people that you've grown up always wanting to meet. But that doesn't mean that you should forego the relationships that you have built, the ones who have helped you, encouraged you, who have believed in your dream as you were coming up. You don't want to be one of those people who let things go. Now, on the other end, we also have to make sure that we do keep in mind that it is real that some of these relationships are no longer healthy for you. You can have appreciation and gratitude for the help that someone has provided you along your way without feeling like you now owe them, that you are guilty unless you take them all the way with you. There is some relationships with friends and family and colleagues and other ones that were very instrumental at a particular point in your life. And the best that you can do is you should do your best to bring those people up, but you cannot allow them to pull you down. And that is definitely a balance of loyalty with, I'll say, loyalty with intention versus just blind loyalty. You don't want to just be blindly loyal to anyone because of something that they have done before and that person no longer exists. That's how I often look at it. Does the person exist that I'm loyal to? Sure, they're here physically, but spiritually, do we the connection that we had along our journey, does that connection still exist? Does that person still exist that I have a connection with? And oftentimes you find that the person who was the one that helped you and was there for you, whether that person went through something tragic in their life or whether you just grew apart because of your aspirations and goals. I mean, life just changes different relationships. But the connection that you have is not to the physical person, it's to the spiritual person. So that's usually how I make my decision on different relationships, whether it makes sense to keep going. And you do, as long as you wish best for them, as long as you are striving for them, then you really don't have to feel guilty about necessarily taking them along and sharing a lot of your personal self with them. So you may actually know Nick Cannon not from his earlier careers with his movies and his acting and his music, but you may know him as the host on America's Got Talent. And he provides the second rule of just building meaningful and long-lasting relationships by saying that when he watches those people, that the ones that are chasing their dreams, that are striving for something, he says when you see him on the side and he's like clapping and he's dancing and he's rooting for them, that's not an act. He said that if he was at home doing nothing, that he would be watching them. That anytime that someone is chasing their dream, you want to encourage them. You want to let them know that you are there to support them, provide any value and expertise that you can. And oftentimes, especially in the case of America's Got Talent, it's not that Nick can actually help them with a lot of things. Their craft is very unique in nature. That's why they're on the show. But he said it doesn't remove the fact that sometimes people, when you're working in the craft, when you're building something, that you often don't realize how much you know versus the average person. Right, so me with a professional services practice, the information that I have learned about finances and risk tolerance and investing and diversification, I sometimes I'll get talking about it. I'll go on and on and on, and then I'll realize that I lost people along the way, and that basically everybody doesn't spend all day looking at what you look at. Everybody doesn't spend as much time researching and being pinged by stuff. Even the way that you look at like Netflix or YouTube, when you log into your account, the information that's there is based off of the stuff that you've been showing an interest in all along. And that each of our accounts looks completely different. It's the same website, it's the same platform, but it's completely different. So the way that I would have you look at your life is the same way. The opportunities that are there before you and for other people, it's like they're looking at that Netflix dashboard. It's completely different. But it doesn't mean that you can't sit down and watch a show with someone even though you've never seen that show on your Netflix dashboard. And it doesn't mean that you can't root for other people and feel joy and excitement as they chase their dreams. And as they fall, you encourage them to get back up and to try again. When they have questions, you're the sounding board that listens to them. When you listen to what other people are going through, when you encourage them, when you are there for them when they need you, you'll find that you are building a solid, extraordinary relationship that will withstand the test of time, and it will give you back benefits tenfold. I mean, you really cannot overvalue how important having a solid, meaningful, and balanced relationship can be in your life. And I talked a little bit about Wildin' Out. That was a show where I would say it was kind of like all that as a kid, but that's probably not helping you if you haven't seen Wildin' Out, as I picked an even older show. But it's kind of like a stand-up comedy routine where they have like different skits, and it's a lot of improv. And it's a lot. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed watching it as a kid. I believe it was on MTV, and that was Nick Cannon's baby. That was his show that he created. And there are several people from Cat Williams and others who were on that show who became household names because of the interactions that you had with them on that show. And he says, and that leads us into number three, where it was very beneficial for him to be able to not only create that show and create something that's fun and enjoyable for others, but also to see that a lot of people were able to use that opportunity to propel their own careers and create more opportunities. In the game of building extraordinary relationships, you want to be able to provide additional opportunities for people. As you get opportunities, is there a way that you can bring others along with you? Whether you are going to a new company and you know that there's positions available and you may not have all of I'll say the political capital to be able to just hire a bunch of your friends and colleagues, but could you at least tell them that the position is open? Could you at least let the hiring manager know that I know that person and I can at least say this, and that about them? If you are able to provide opportunities for your network where you're sharing in the wealth, where we are growing together, then you find that they are very interested in your success, that they are going to be providing you additional opportunities. Hey, I really appreciate what you did for me that day. This came across and it made me think of you. Do you think that's something that you would be interested in? I can introduce you to someone. You just never know who people know. I think the saying is that every six people, if you're able, like we're all six people away from meeting someone that we'd want to meet. That is not a very difficult connection, especially with social media and things like that. So you want to make sure when you're building extraordinary relationships that you are opening doors for other people who are there and maybe can come along, where you're thinking of other people and their talents and their skills, where you're able to provide that doorway, just a slight one. We're not saying you got to go all out. We're not saying you got to lie for them, but simply that you are allowing an opportunity for them to be able to capitalize on something that you have been able to build. And because you're able to do that, it's going to encourage more people to collaborate, to work with you, which is only going to grow your brand. It's going to help you accomplish your goal. Number four is that family is always first. When you're building something, there are going to be times where you will have to make compromises. And I'm not saying that you say no to everything that conflicts with your family schedule, but what I am saying is that it's something that you want to always be considering your family on. You want to think, how does this impact my family? If I have to move here, what am I going to do for my family? Let me check the schools that are available there. Let me see what extracurricular activities are going on. Maybe what time of the year is the best time for me to move so that it's a easier transition. Or could I do like different parties and different events for my kids with their friends so that we at least have a proper goodbye? You're always putting family first, not in the sense that you say no to anything that doesn't make your kids smile, because that's not always going to be the case. It doesn't mean that you say no to everything that doesn't make your spouse smile, because that's not always going to be the case. But it does mean that you are always thinking of them, that you're always considering them, and that they're always at least in the forefront of your decision-making process. I know as a married man that my wife had taught me very early that I cannot commit to any event without first bringing it by her. And I would remember we'd be sitting in church and someone would be like, oh, we should go to lunch. And I'd be like, sure. And then I'll go tell the family. My wife would be like, oh, but we have this event that we already committed to, or something like that. Or she said yes to a different family at the same time. I mean, who knows? But it's just the idea that we learn that we, one, have to have a calendar where we each can look at the calendar and we have to keep it up to date. But we also want to make sure that we communicate on a regular basis. This is what I'm doing. This is the goals and aspirations I have. And then they can let you know, well, this is an opportunity that I have, which leads back to the last one. But it also just lets them know that, hey, you're super important to me. I'm not trying to do this alone. I know that you're not going to like everything that I'm doing, but I am thinking about you and everything, and I'm doing the best that I can for the family. And that may not be always something that you agree with, and it may not even be right all the time. But I'm doing the best with the information that I have, and I'm willing to listen to your thoughts, and we can see where we go from here. And you'll find that it brings them along where they're like, okay, well, let's at least see what happens, because you are considering me and you have thought a lot about the family, and I'm not a fan of it, but I also understand that, like, let's see what's going to happen. And then you can have the timeline, and then you stay engaged, you talk on a regular basis, and you have these meetings where you adjust and recalculate, because you're going to find that most successful people didn't get there on their own. They had their family with them, whether you're reading about Jeff Bezos and how his family was giving him the money when he first created Amazon, and he started that from just the simple idea of having an online bookstore. Or whether you're talking about someone who's just like, my spouse was here the whole time, and they helped me, and they made sure that all of my failures, that they were able to pick up the pieces. Because it is going to be a group effort. It is going to be something that you have to strive to accomplish together. And it's very important that you don't try to just make it to the end and you're dragging everybody along with you. I don't know if you ever seen that wedding cake where I think it's usually the groom's cake, but the bride is like dragging the husband to the preacher to get married. You don't want it to be like that. You want it to be where everybody's excited, everybody's working together, and we're cooperating, we're walking hand in hand. It is one of the strongest benefits of an extraordinary relationship. I believe scripture talks about it as what is difficult for one person to do alone. If you have two or three together, it becomes a lot easier. And that's the idea of you building that extraordinary relationship. You want to be able to put something together where when two or three are together, it becomes more manageable, more doable. There's an old African proverb that says, if you want to get there quick, go alone. And if you want to go farther, go with someone else. You want to make sure that you're doing that. And number 5 is you want to be passionate about others. So Nick Cannon, he talks about just his overall understanding of what hunger is. He knows what it's like to go without. And so he says that it's one of his missions to bring awareness to the hunger in the world and to also work towards eliminating it. We each need to have a cause, and it may not be a worldwide cause, but it is a cause that we understand would make the world a better place if we're able to address it, and that we don't want to ignore it. And I believe that everyone has a cause inside of them, and you'll find that there are going to be people who are going to not get it. They're going to talk bad about it, but those again are just people that you don't need in your life. They have just self-identified themselves, and you can kind of keep moving. And we have another episode coming up where we talk a little bit about that with the honeypot company. But you do want to make sure that you understand that if you're going to make the world a better place for yourself, that problem that you're addressing is probably a problem that other people are dealing with as well. And as you guys already know, when I read and that black wealth will hit zero in 2053, that I took that mantle, that is something that I'm striving to eliminate. Not in the sense that I believe that money should only be in the hands of blacks, but just in the sense that I don't believe that people should work for 40, 50 years and have nothing to show for it. It really just is that simple. And I believe that it will help the entire economy by addressing this problem for the black and brown community. So I deal with that pushback where people are like, Dre, you should be able to help anyone, and it's not about this person or this color and that color. And I agree with that. I have not turned anyone away that has needed my help, but I am focusing in on understanding that my community doesn't have a lot of people that look like them who have the ability to give them the financial guidance that they need and offer the solutions at the same time. There's a lot of people who talk about it, but there's not as many people who can implement a solution. And I want to let them know that there's someone who's available who is passionate and understands and is ready to work for them. And if that's something that throws people sideways, I can appreciate that. And I do keep that in mind. But I also understand that it's very important that we each do what we're here for. That's what I'm here for. That is my purpose. That is my drive. And it's not something that I can forego for any reason. I can work on how I implement it, but that is going to be my life's mission. It's definitely what I'm committed to doing. And I do encourage you guys to come along as well. If you haven't already, I do have that free resource available for you. You can go to forecasthope.com/opportunity. There you can download your Lifetime Millionaire Success Blueprint, and in it you'll be able to learn how to create or at least capitalize on your next $1 million opportunities. As always, I'm Dre. I am thankful for your time. If you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed listening to the audio, I just simply ask you to subscribe. Until next time, continue blessings on your journey to become the champion of your dream life. And as always, better self, better wealth.